The nursery was a masterpiece of diluted optimism. Brenda had spent 8 months curated every inch of it, from the hand-painted sage walls to the ethically sourced wool rug that cost more than my first truck. When we finally brought Leo home, it felt like the final piece of a puzzle we'd been trying to solve for a decade. Brenda was in her element. She's always been, well, whimsical is the polite word. She's the kind of woman who apologizes to the vacuum cleaner if she bumps it into a wall. Her love for Leo was a thick, sugary fog that seemed to coat the entire house, muffling the sharp edges of reality. "Mark, look at his little nose," she whispered, leaning over the bassinet. "He's doing the dream smiles. He's probably dreaming of kittens and sunshine." I looked down at him. Leo was 6 days old, pink, chubby, and perfect. He looked like every other infant on the planet, a slightly squished, very cute loaf of bread. I felt that rush of fatherly protection, the kind that makes you want to build a fortress around your family. "He's perfect, Bren," I said. For the first week, it was bliss. He didn't cry at night. He ate well. He just existed in a state of serene, chubby silence. But then the little things started happening. Subtle things. The kind you can dismiss as new parent jitters, until they start to stack up like a mountain of wrongness. It started with the floorboards. Our house is a 1920s Victorian. I knew every groan of the wood like the back of my hand. One Tuesday night, around 3:15 a.m., I woke up to a rhythmic creak coming from the hallway. It didn't sound like the house settling. It sounded like someone was pacing, not with heavy adult steps, but with a light, purposeful weight like a large dog trotting on its claws. I peeked out into the dark hallway. The nursery door was ajar. A sliver of moonlight hit the floor, and for a split second I saw a shadow move. It was low to the ground, fast, like a large cat darting into the room. I rushed in, my heart hammering. Brenda was snoring softly in the nursery glider, her head lolling to the side. Leo was in his crib, eyes wide open, staring at the ceiling. He wasn't crying, he wasn't even moving, he was just waiting. "Did you hear that?" I whispered, shaking Brenda. "Hear what, honey?" She mumbled, her eyes half closed, a dazed smile on her face. "The angels singing to him." "No, Brenda. Something was in the hall. It sounded like running." "It's just the house settling, Marky. Go back to sleep. You're being a silly Billy." I looked back at Leo. He blinked. It was the first time I noticed his eyelids didn't move at the same time. The left one flickered a fraction of a second after the right. It was a tiny biological glitch that sent a shiver straight down my spine. The next morning, I found a dead fly on Leo's dresser. Not just dead, it had been meticulously dismantled. Its wings were placed in one pile, its legs in another, and its tiny head was perched on top of a pacifier like a grim sentinel. I told myself it was a weird spider. I had to. By the second week, the atmosphere in the house felt heavy, like the air before a massive thunderstorm. Leo was growing at a rate that defied biology. Brenda was already digging out the 6-month-old onesies, laughing about how he was growing like a weed. "He's just a healthy boy," she chirped, struggling to snap a romper over thighs that looked far too muscular for an infant. "He's going to be a linebacker, Mark. My little champion." I was in the kitchen, trying to fix the baby monitor. It had been acting up, emitting a weird, low-frequency static that sounded almost like someone whispering in a language that hadn't been spoken in 10,000 years. Occasionally, through the white noise, I thought I heard a deep, gravelly chuckle. Suddenly, a massive thud echoed from upstairs. It was followed by a wet, tearing sound, like a soaked rag being ripped in half. I ran up the stairs, my lungs burning. I burst into the nursery. Brenda was in the master bathroom, humming Twinkle Twinkle while she ran a bath. Leo was on his playmat in the center of the room. In the corner, Sir Fluffernutter's Mega Fortress cage, a supposedly escape-proof plastic palace, was on its side. The plastic door wasn't just open. It looked like it had been forced from the inside with enough pressure to warp the hinges. Sir Fluffernutter was gone. "Brenda," I yelled, "the hamster, he's out of the cage." Brenda walked in wrapped in a fluffy robe, her eyes glassy with that perpetual momtrance. "Oh, Marky, don't be such a drama queen. He probably just learned how to unlock it. He's probably just exploring, going on a little adventure behind the baseboards." "Brenda, the door is warped. And look at Leo." Leo was lying on his back, looking suspiciously plump, his stomach distended. A single tiny golden-brown tuft of fur was stuck to the corner of his mouth. "There's fur on his face, Brenda," she giggled, leaning over to wipe Leo's mouth with a silk cloth. "It's just lint from his new organic blanket, silly Billy. Honestly, you're so stressed. Maybe you should try some of my lavender tea. It's very grounding." I reached down to pick Leo up, intending to check him for, I don't know, bite marks, but as my hand closed under his armpits, his tiny infant hand shot up and grabbed my pinky. It wasn't a baby's grip. It was a squeeze of cold, calculated steel. I felt the bone in my finger groan, the joint popping under a pressure that shouldn't exist in a 10-pound body. And then, a vibration started at the base of my skull. It wasn't a sound, it was a thought that wasn't mine. He was a bit stringy, Mark. Too much cedar in the bedding. Next time, get me something with more marbleizing. Like a guinea pig. Or maybe that annoying neighbor's chihuahua with the overbite. I dropped him back onto the mat. My heart was trying to exit through my throat. Who said that? Down here, big guy. And for the record, your wife is right. I am a gift. Specifically, the kind of gift that keeps on giving. Until there's absolutely nothing left for you to give. I didn't tell Brenda. I couldn't. How do you tell a woman who thinks the world is made of sunshine and rainbows that her little miracle just telepathically critiqued the flavor of a rodent? I went to the city archives. I'm a researcher. It's the only way I know how to process the impossible. I spent 10 hours in that damp basement, scrolling through digitized newspapers from the last century, my eyes burning from the blue light of the monitor. I started searching for missing infants and unexplained parental deaths. I found a pattern, a horrific cyclical rhythm. Every 30 years to the day, a tragedy occurred in this county. August 1966, the Sterling Massacre. A young couple found hollowed out in their beds, no blood, no sign of entry. Their 3-week-old son, Arthur, vanished into thin air. Neighbors reported hearing the sound of a man laughing through the house fence at 3 a.m. August 1996, the Miller vanishing. Parents found a skeletal remains in a locked nursery. The coroner noted the bones were polished clean. The infant, Toby, was never recovered. The last diary entry of the mother described her son as a very hungry, very clever boy. I found a police photo from the 1996 case. It was a shot of the Miller nursery. On the floor, next to a pile of bones that used to be a father, was a framed photo of the baby. I zoomed in until the pixel screamed. There, hidden behind the left ear of the baby, was a tiny, dark birthmark. A perfect inverted cross. I pulled out my phone, my hand shaking so hard I almost dropped it. I looked at a photo I'd taken of Leo during his first bath. I zoomed in on his ear. The cross was there. Found it, didn't you? The voice boomed so loud in my skull I fell out of my chair, knocking a stack of archival boxes over. The librarian shushed me, but I didn't care. 10 points for Ravenclaw. I've been using that birthmark since the 1400s. It's like a brand name. Quality you can trust. Now, get home, Mark. Sunday brunch is almost ready, and I'm feeling peckish. I drove home like a man possessed, the car fishtailing on the gravel driveway. The sun was setting, casting long, bloody shadows across the lawn. The house was dark. Not just lights off dark, but a heavy, oppressive gloom that seemed to swallow the flashlight on my phone. "Brenda?" I called out. My voice sounded small, fragile. No answer. Only the rhythmic thump, thump, thump of something heavy hitting the floor upstairs. I walked up the stairs, my footsteps echoing in the silence. As I reached the top of the landing, I saw him. Leo wasn't in the nursery. He was standing at the far end of the hallway. He wasn't a baby anymore. He was 4 feet tall, a terrifying mass of corded gray muscle. His infant face was still there, but it was stretched tight over a massive, predatory skull, his blue eyes now glowing with a sickly, oily yellow light. He was wearing a toddler's My First Birthday shirt that was shredded across his bulging chest. He was holding something. It was Brenda's silk robe. "She's in the dining room, Mark." The voice vibrated through the walls, making the pictures on the hallway wall rattle. "She's been so helpful. She even helped me sharpen the carving knives. She's an absolute peach. A bit fuzzy in the head, sure, but a peach nonetheless." "Let her go," I hissed, reaching for a heavy glass vase on the hallway table. The monster tilted its head, a wet click sounding from its neck. "Miss the main course? Don't be tacky, Mark. We're a family, and families eat together." In a blur of gray motion, he was gone. He didn't run, he scuttled up the wall and across the ceiling, his claws leaving deep gouges in the plaster. I stumbled down the stairs and into the dining room. Brenda was sitting at the head of the table. She was wearing her favorite floral dress, but it was stained with dark, wet splotches. Her eyes were wide, vacant, staring at nothing with a blissful, lobotomized smile. "Mark, you're just in time," she chirped. Her voice was thin, like a radio station losing its signal. "Leo is finally going to graduate to big boy food. Isn't it wonderful?" Leo was sitting across from her, perched on his haunches on top of the mahogany table. He had a steak knife in each clawed hand. "All right, Pops, sit down. No need to be shy." The demon roared, the force of the psychic blast knocking me into my chair. I've been waiting for this. The airhead and the researcher. A balanced meal. "Brenda, look at him," I screamed, struggling against an invisible weight that pinned me to the seat. "He's a monster. He's not our son." Brenda reached out and patted the demon's scaly gray hand. "Oh, Marky, don't be so dramatic. He's just having a growth spurt. It's perfectly natural. See? She's a dream!" Leo cackled, his mouth unhinging to reveal 4 rows of translucent needle-like teeth. She spent the last 2 weeks pre-marinating herself in sheer, unadulterated denial. "You have any idea how much that improves the flavor? No stress hormones, no cortisol. Just pure, sweet stupidity." The demon leaned over the table, his yellow eyes fixed on Brenda's throat. "I'm going to start with the vocal cords, I think. I want to see if I can make her hit that high note one last time. And then I'm going to eat your brain, Mark. I want to taste all that useless knowledge. I want to digest every newspaper article you read today. I'll burn this house to the ground with you in it," I spat. "With what? Your library card?" The demon let out a guttural, wet laugh. "I've survived the Inquisition, the Black Plague, and the 1970s. You think a little fire is going to stop the 30-year cycle? I'm the ultimate evolutionary loophole, Mark. I get born, I get love, and then I get a 5-course meal that literally walked me home from the hospital." He looked at Brenda, his tongue long, black, and bifurcated, flicking out to taste her cheek. "Ready, Mom? Anything for my little miracle," Brenda whispered, her eyes shining with a terrifying, vacant love. The demon lunged. The last thing I saw before the candles were blown out by the force of his movement was that tiny inverted cross behind his ear, glowing a dull, hellish red. The sound that followed, the snapping of bone and the wet, rhythmic chewing, was the only thing left in the house that smelled of lavender.